Friday night, media review time with Nick Hayes from the Media Stable. Good evening, Nick.
Oh, good evening, Mr. Williams.
Just
a bit of Black Betty, was that?
That was Black Betty, yes. You know your music.
Oh,
it's good.
Black Betty. I don't want to sing it. I don't want to sing it. I'll only embarrass myself.
What was the band? The original band was called Ram Jam or something, wasn't it?
Oh, I don't know.
I think so. But before the news, I was talking with a Money Talks expert, the editor of Money Magazine, Effie Zahos, and she was giving us a tip on how to go and check out credit score at a thing called creditscore.com.au with capitals for credit, C, S for score, and then .com.au, because otherwise you'll get thrown all sorts of crazy sites. And I'm actually happy with my credit score.
I'm going to have to go and check mine. Although I'm a little bit fearful.
So was I, but but it's all good.
Good
Nick,
work.
I'll just have your license handy, your driver's license. Okay,
good.
then they can check it. Tonight, the show that had everyone talking last week was The Bachelor.
It was The Bachelor.
But it didn't end well, did it?
It didn't end well. And for those that have been, may have watched the project tonight, have caught up and found out a little bit more why. Blake, who was The Bachelor, and we've talked a little bit about this over the journey of The Bachelor.
Oh, we love a journey.
We do love a journey. And
reality TV is full of journeys.
And you've got that gorgeous voice, too, that sounds very much like Blake. And,
I have been mistaken for Blake.
I dare say, yes, you've been even spotted in the street, maybe.
Oh, even at Hot Chocolate on Saturday night. They said, you must be Blake. And I said, no.
Well, he's gone away and he's proposed last Thursday. Now, what happened was, on the Wednesday, there was an alert sent around to all media that all media engagements that we're going to be having between The Bachelor and his chosen one the day after were being cancelled. And that was running right through the morning of the last show. Now, of course, this is great publicity. We're really pumping up the show. What's going on? What's happened? Let's go away and see. Well, 1.4 million viewers saw it on Thursday, the last finale of The Bachelor.
Oh, no wonder no one was calling me.
Everyone was sitting down
watching The Bachelor, the buggers.
Watching The Bachelor, of course.
I'm on to you lot.
Yes, you were all watching it. But and he proposed, and you know it was a wonderful occasion. And one might say, well, you know, how can you propose to a woman that you've only met 15, 16 weeks earlier? And the recording of the show finished around 8 weeks ago, so they've had to keep this very quiet. Leading up to the last week, all bets were off, and it would appear that there was a crack in the show. And Blake has actually broken off the engagement and has left Sam. Now,
standing at the altar, so to speak.
Standing at the altar. I mean, this raises the whole question of this kind of reality TV. Are we buying into this? And is this something that people really want to take in from here on? The answer to this, Walter, is yes. They're loving it. 1.4 million viewers on last Thursday. And I dare say that the project, it'll be interesting to see the numbers for the project tonight, or we'll hear that.
Because Blake was on the project.
Because both Blake and Sam were telling all their stories through the project and giving
all the dirty laundry.
All the dirty laundry. And to be truthful, there wasn't a lot of dirty laundry. What basically just happened, the cameras went away. He thought, well, you've been in this sort of reality TV bubble, and then all of a sudden you're out of it, and you go, hey, what did I just get caught up in? All of a sudden I've signed up to go on some reality TV show. Next thing you know, I'm walking out with a wife. But that was his intention, and Blake came across as this guy that was really willing to give this a go.
And Mr. Perfect, and apparently not so perfect.
Well, not so perfect, but there's a lot of people in the media that want to change the name of this show. Instead of being called The Bachelor, it should be called Stripper Wants a Wife. Because the last two bachelors, Walter, have been strippers.
Have they? Including Blake.
Including Blake. He's been known to strip in his time. He may, and it's been alleged, that he actually owns a stripping company here in Western Australia.
Oh,
well,
no.
You know, it's just, what chance does the average bloke out there have when we're supposed to be going up against these guys that have got
male
bodies
strippers?
Yeah. brick proverbials, and we're out there, us intelligent men, the men who have a few dollars in our pockets and are out there, working against the man, and these guys are just handed everything on a silver platter. Well, it just turns out that these shows are pretty much a sham. It has been. It's interesting to see how Channel 10 is going to deal with this going onwards, because they're not going to get the mileage as they did from the previous Bachelor. But I think they're causing and getting enough publicity around this one to see another couple of series to move on. But I want to ask the question to the listeners: would you go on a show like this and actually put yourself up to this? Because I think, putting your heart on the line like some of these girls have, but they will be lining up to do it again, Walter. It's just amazing. They're already calling for the next set to go through.
And some of these people are absolutely addicted, not only as viewers to reality TV, but addicted to becoming contestants for reality TV as well. You hear about people who've been on this show and that show, and they just keep signing on for the next one.
It's their chance, 15 minutes of fame, and it's, that since that Big Brother first started there on the Gold Coast, people have been lining up to do this because they believe that they can get rich, famous, and lead a fairly successful life. They think that there is something very glamorous around the whole idea of being known. I think that if you were to ask Sam, the jilted bride-to-be, whether, famous for being known, I think he'll say, no, I probably would not go down that path again. What future Blake has, I don't know. But there is people that are lining up to do this. They will do it because it's part of society. It's part of people's psyche. If you want to get famous, go down the easiest path you can and make a fool of yourself.
The path of least resistance.
Correct. And just get yourself on reality TV. And if you do that, you're every chance there of having a very successful career.
Yeah, for a lot of us to achieve any kind of fame, we get into radio or TV and do it and make a career of it. But there are other people who think that we'll do it in 15 minutes flat by being on one of these shows. Would you ever go on a reality TV show? Would you quit your job for one of these programs? 13 13 32. Let us know about it. Trouble brewing with Blake the Bachelor and his one-time fiancée, Sam Fox. Is she Fox, wasn't she?
Sam, I'm not sure it was Fox. Sam Fox, she was a 1980.
Oh, I'm thinking of page 3. Yeah, I remember her when she was on page 3. There were lumps on page 1. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, more of Monday Night Media Review with Nick Hayes. Ian seen past 10, talking with Nick Hayes. Monday Night Media Review tonight from the media stable. And just to make sure that everyone is on the same page, The Bachelor was played, as you said, by Blake Garvey, who jilted his fiancée, Sam Frost. She got a very frosty reception from Blake.
Very icy. Yeah.
Very icy indeed. Yeah. Living up to the name, unfortunately, for the poor woman who's been through all this. But I guess you put yourself out there when you sign on for one of these shows, don't you?
You do. And the thing is, a lot of people are continuing to line up. I mean, 1.4 million viewers for Channel 10 to receive that on that night on the final show is enough for Channel 10 to say, yes, we're on a winner here. Let's continue with this. Now, the publicity machine around this, because even though it's not true love and maybe it's a jilted lover at the end, it's only going to attract more attention to it. But the thing is, Walter, more girls are going to line up to be a part of it, as more bachelors are going to be there. But I just hope that they pick at least the American shows, and this is a very Americanized show. This is a show that...
Oh, yeah, and that's where it had its origins.
Yeah, and the thing is, with The Bachelor in America, though, these were really wealthy-to-do bachelors themselves in their own right. They didn't necessarily need producers to come along and pay for their $6 million cruiser to come up and take them out for a lovely lobster lunch. Yes. This was all, this was almost reality. The idea of this guy, he was a real estate agent, I believe. He couldn't, he was lucky to afford a tinny out there on the Brisbane River. I mean,
Didn't he do a nude shot for a real estate agency? I think that's as close as he got to being a real estate agent.
Oh, well, whatever he's up to, he's living well beyond his means, and the whole thing is a complete and utter farce.
But it is the classic male fantasy, isn't it? Having a room full of women fawning over you, laughing at your jokes, giving you the old hair flip, all the sexual innuendos that you expect. And you can imagine him getting caught up in all this.
Oh, I'm sure. But look, I don't think the victim here is Blake. I think the poor old victim here is Sam. And I think the victim, to much of a degree, is the Australian viewer. Why are we putting up with some of this kind of TV? But unfortunately, it gets a lot of viewers, and it's very attractive there for the networks to continue running with it. And I think you'll see that this might run for another 2 or 3 more seasons just off the back of this one because of the numbers that are watching it.
Yeah, true. And we're unfortunately giving it more oxygen tonight. We're just fanning the flames of The Bachelor, which really doesn't need it from what I hear.
Maybe you and I should think about sort of getting ourselves a little bit fitter and think about going on as a contestant there for The Bachelor.
Well, my producer, Joe, is a bachelor, and I'm sure he's probably been eyeing off the idea of... I wonder how many people listening to this program tonight see themselves as The Bachelor, as the potential Bachelor material. Give us a call on 13 13 32. See, Joe does. I knew that. That's why he's growing the beard extra bushy this year.
Yeah.
Bachelor material.
He's the retro bachelor. He's the
metrosexual bachelor.
Wow. Yeah. And you know what? Yes. Joe would probably be a lot more credible. He would be a lot more appealing to the bachelorette that's out there than what they put up at the moment. I mean, you know, this guy had all the charm. He's got all the looks, but at the end of the day, really maybe just in it for himself and what kind of publicity he can raise around his own brand. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Oh, Blake, what have you done?
Come on, Joe. Well, let's get on Team Joe.
Yeah, Team Joe now. All right. Well, we're getting behind him for Movember. He's certainly got that in the bag.
Has he? Good work.
Easily done. And we want to talk about brand journalism. This is a terminology you don't hear a lot of, but it does get thrown about a bit, doesn't it?
Look, it does. And for the listeners out there, it's probably a term, yes, brand journalism doesn't get talked about a great deal, but I can almost guarantee just about every single day that if you're reading something on the internet, if you're reading a blog, if you're reading something there that you've been searching for, there's every chance that it was done by a brand journalist. Now, the reason I was raising this is because I thought it was worthwhile bringing it to everyone's attention, is that brand journalists are writing material, they're writing content for the purposes of selling a product or a service. They're doing it with journalistic qualities and style. They're doing it in a way that almost as if you were reading the Courier Mail, if you were reading The Age, the Sydney Morning Herald, you're reading a piece of material content that almost makes you feel as though this was written with an unbiased nature and it's quite informative. And I'm beginning to feel a particular way about a product or service. That's what brand journalism is about. And it is done by some very, very smart copywriters, journalists themselves, who are putting this material out there because it becomes very, very valuable when it goes out onto the internet. When you're searching things through Google, it gets picked up. And if you're reading something and you're liking what you're reading, then you're just as much, or you're inclined to head down that particular path. A lot different to that of advertorials. Advertorials, whether it be on radio, whether it be in newspapers, there's almost a disclaimer there that will say advertorial. And Walter, when you've read an advertorial on radio, it's very obvious that it is an advertisement, because that's the way that it's got to be presented. But this is something here that consumers have got to be a little bit more aware of that today. When you're reading something, who wrote it? What was it? Who was it written by? And for what purpose was it written?
Yes, yeah, because it turns into, well, it's advertorial disguised as fair income journalism.
It is, and journalists, and I'm not suggesting at all that any of the traditional media has gone down this path as yet, or will go down this path. What I'm saying is that it's probably more for the online, for blogs, for websites that are very much more independent and don't necessarily have, I guess, journalistic qualities about it. What I'm saying is that it is good quality content. It's good reading, but it does have a purpose and a reason behind it. So you may be reading something and going, oh, all of a sudden, I feel like I should be buying a Hyundai iX35. Well, that could have been written by a brand journalist that has led you down that path to buying an iX35, but it won't be so blatant as to say buy an iX35, 35 grand on the road.
Yes.
They're very much driven behind the content and the story behind it.
Well, as you rightly know, radio journalism has been called to task over issues that happened last century, so to speak, with very high-profile, prominent broadcasters in this country. And as a result of that, there's a lot of transparency going on in radio, but we're not seeing the same transparency in print journalism, are we?
No, and this is the first time, I guess, of this. But by the way, I'm not even suggesting that any of our major publications have actually gone down this path. In fact, if anything, they hate it. They hate it so much. In fact, they'll almost they will distance themselves so much from it that it's just something that they just don't want anything to do with. But I think in a way they need to embrace it because brand journalism is the future. It's what people are reading. We've become quite particular, and we're able to go away and choose the kind of content that we want to read by just clicking a couple of buttons. Before, we'd have to go to the newsagents. Before, we'd have to go to the library. Now it's just that the click a button and you can actually read what you want to read. And that's when I think if it's good journalists, there's not just because there's money to be made out of it. It's just that if the highest quality content can be delivered and it can be delivered in a really fair way, then I think this is something there that there is for the future. But let's not paint this any other way. Brand journalism in itself has a call to action. It has a reason for being around, and it wants you to go down a particular way. And they'll very creatively do this. But it's more just a little heads up to everyone that's listening tonight. When you're reading something, just have a quick look and think about it. Who wrote this? What's their motivation behind writing it? And did they take me on a little journey? Yeah,
don't get suckered by it. Brand journalism has been around a little while too. I know there's some articles that go back at least a decade dealing with a major fast food chain that was using brand journalism as part of their advertising plan too.
Yeah, and look, as you were referring to...
And I'm loving it.
Well, Catch the Comments was obviously, as we were referring to a little earlier, was in the radio world. Television, you see it even after 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, all the advertorials come on, but they're very, very obvious that they're advertorials. Yeah. They're paid for adverts, and some of them take you on a nice little journey in their own right because it's a big storytelling. It's about storytelling, and that's why it is successful because human beings in their nature just love stories.
Oh, mate, one of these weeks you and I have got to talk about infomercials on this segment because I am dead set over them. Every channel is using info. Can we do that one week?
We'll do that next week.
All right,
I'm with you.
Nick, and I think our listeners will be too. I think we'll get a lot of feedback on infomercials.
What's your worst one? What's the worst one you've seen?
Jeez, I don't know. One that's bugging me at the moment, there's one for a brand of blender, which I won't name the brand for legal reasons, but I'm just over it. I'm seeing so many things being blended in that. The only thing they haven't blended is a shoe, I think, but that's only because they cut that through with that knife that completely cut through anything.
Why would you cut up shoes with a knife?
I don't know.
How upset could you be with the shoe if you're cutting it through with a knife?
Exactly. But honestly, you want to buy one.
I want to buy one because it can cut through a shoe like nothing else. And I know what kind of blender you're talking about because it comes straight out of a gun, doesn't it? That particular blender. And look...
you've shot yourself in the foot with that one.
Everyone, the people are going ballistic. But look, the whole thing is with infomercials, there's a reason behind them and that they are selling. And the reason they do them, you think, why would they even bother putting this together? No one's going to fall for this. Yeah. Guess what? They do. Well, yeah. They get caught up in it. And the reason they're so successful and the reason there's so many of them is because we buy. Yeah,
we'll talk about that in detail next week. Nick Hayes is with us, mate. Thank you for that.
Good on you, Walter. Have a great evening.
You too, mate. Nick Hayes from the Media Stable with our Monday night media review, having a look tonight at The Bachelor and reality TV in general and brand journalism, finding all out about it. It is 28 minutes past 10. Still to come, memories are made of this with Kevin Trask next. We want to know